because everybody wants a deal. Buying is emotional. If you can give them a deal, it creates urgency around it, but it has to be done the right way and it has to be done with the right messaging. Hey there, it's Koniak, and today I'm going to talk about how to use incentives without being pushy or having commission breath. In other words, putting too much pressure on the client. And I'm not a big fan of using discount selling in the traditional way, which most people use it, but I'm a huge fan of using incentives to accelerate deals. And so there's a big difference. Let's get into it. Discount selling is when you go to a client and you say, hey, we have a great promo this month and it's, discounted 30%, but you got to sign by the 31st. And after that, the price goes up to this amount. Now that could work, but the problem with discount selling is most of the time the client has a process they need to go through to get approvals. They have a process for purchasing, and a lot of times they just run out of time if they're not the final decision maker. And then what'll happen is if they can't get the deal done, they'll often come back to you the next month, and they'll want the same deal, and you'll have to go re-get approvals again. You look like a jackass, pardon my language, to your boss and to your company because you missed your forecast. And it creates all this unnecessary gross pressure for the client. And I just can't stand that. And you feel horrible if you don't end up getting the deal signed, because now, again, you gave this big discount, you gave away ACV, and they didn't even sign in the first place. So I'm not a proponent of that method, and that's kind of how most people go about it. So what I am a fan of is using incentives to qualify whether a client is in a position to actually move forward in a given time frame, and leveraging those incentives to get them to move forward. And there's a massive difference versus discount selling. So let me share how you can do incentive selling the right way and what it looks like. And there's a couple key ingredients that you want to have. Number one is you want to have the decision maker. If you're going to be talking about incentives or programs, you need to actually talk to someone who has the power to move the deal forward. And if it's someone who has to sell up or get a bunch of other approvals, it's harder to do. So you really want to be talking to someone who has there's always multiple decision makers, but someone who has the clout to at least make something happen, often referred to as the economic buyer. The second thing you need is to understand their purchase process. You need to understand ideally what their process looks like and how long it takes. And the third thing you need is time. That's the most important thing. So when you're using incentive selling, here's the way you would do it. You'd want to do it early on in the month. Ideally, if you're trying to sell at the end of the quarter, you'd want to be bringing up incentives ideally, the first week or two in the quarter. You don't want to be dropping incentives the last week or late in the quarter. So you want to bring it up as early as possible. And the way that you approach it, assuming you're talking to the main economic buyer, is it goes something like this. It's say, look, I know that, you're eager to get started, and I know that, it's really going to help you in a lot of areas, the proposal that we're delivering, and we're ready to give you a proposal, and, we're ready to really show you how we can help you and put a plan together. And I'm just curious to know your timeline in terms of when you're thinking of doing this. And if they say, it's not urgent, maybe next month, or, it's a next quarter project, you now have an opportunity to lean into the incentive. If they're already motivated and they want to do something anyway because they have a compelling event or they have a timeline they're trying to meet, even better. You don't need to use an incentive. But if they're not necessarily motivated, or if they have other projects that are taking priority, here's what you can say. You can say, well, that's great, that you're considering doing it. But the reason I ask is we actually have some really interesting incentives this month for new clients. And you always want to have a story around the incentives. So you could say for new clients, new logos, we have some good incentives. You could also say if you're a public company, it's the last month of our quarter and we're reporting earnings and we really want to finish the quarter strong. So we put together some really compelling incentives. It could be around the product that you're selling, but you have to have a reason for the incentive. Don't just drop a discount. Have a good story and a compelling reason. And it's got to be true. It's got to be something that's believable. It's got to be something that, you can stand behind, right? And so I'll say something like, it's the end of our quarter. We're a public company and we are really pushing hard to finish strong. As you can see, last quarter, we didn't have a great quarter and it hit the stock. So we're really trying to mitigate that risk this quarter. Or if the stock was great, you can say we want to keep momentum. We had a great quarter last quarter. You get the point. It has to be legit. And then you can say, so in order to finish strong, what we've done is we put together some very compelling incentives and you're actually qualified for it based on what you're purchasing. And, I know we're only 3 weeks away from the end of the quarter. And if it's something that would be unnatural, I don't want to show you the incentives if it's not something that's feasible for you to do. So just out of curiosity, if we have a really good incentive, is there any chance or is there any possibility that you would be able to do this month? Because I don't want to show you or position something that is unnatural that you're not able to do. And I get their consensus and I get their buy-in before showing the pricing. And 9 times out of 10 times, what they'll say is, well, yeah, if it's good enough, yeah, show us what you got. And I'll say, well, what does your process look like? What would you need to do? I'd love to get you the best pricing possible and get you the best deal possible. But I just want to make sure that I understand kind of the timing on your end and what has to happen so we can work backwards from there. And now you'll find out, what is their approval process? Is there a purchasing department? What steps they have to go through? Is there legal? So you can kind of have that discussion and see if it's feasible. Now, if they say, you know what, I could accelerate things, it has to go to my legal and then purchasing, but I think we have enough time to do it. Then at that point, I'd say, great. Well, I have everything ready. What I'm going to do is show you what that looks like. And, I'll map out a mutual action plan. Given the proposal, here's what we would need to have in legal by this date. Here's what we would need to get the approvals by. In this way, it takes the pressure off you. The last thing we want to do is we want to be the last day of the month, the last day of the quarter, trying to get this deal signed. So, walk me through kind of the timing. We can get you the proposal. Who would we need to review it with? Who else needs to be in the room? Let's make sure they're there. Let's do that ASAP. Then we'll get you an order form. You got to get it to your legal. That'll take a few days. And then finally, the last step is get a PO from procurement. So you really, again, depending on the client and what their buying process is, that purchase process could take a few weeks. And so if you're giving an incentive or a discount and you do it too late in the month, if you do it 3 weeks in or 4 weeks in, your deal is going to slip, not because they don't want to do it, it's because they're going to run out of time. So before you offer the incentive, the wording I always use is, I want to make sure this is something that's natural for you and that's not going to create unnecessary pressure. It is a great opportunity. It's great timing, but I always want to be mindful of, not being a pushy seller. So if it's not feasible, let's not even show you it, because there's no point in showing you something that you can't do. And then let them say, yeah, we can do it. Yeah, we want to do it. And absolutely, I'll make it happen. I'll push it through. So that's how you use incentives to effectively sell. In summary, again, you want to be with the decision maker, you want to qualify their timeline and understand their process, and then you want to give them an out. Say, I don't want to show this to you if it's not something you can take advantage, but we do have a very good promo going this month and this quarter that you qualify for. I will say the incentive's got to have a great story behind it, and it doesn't need to be just discounting. It could be a month free of service. It could be getting the 60-month pricing for a 36-month term. It could be getting some extra product included for no extra charge. It doesn't matter what it is, but you definitely want to have something above and beyond, because everybody wants a deal. Buying is emotional. And so if you can give them a deal, it creates urgency around it, but it has to be done the right way and it has to be done with the right messaging. So I hope this video helps for you. I hope it helps you sell more. I hope it helps you avoid being a pushy seller and getting those end of quarter, end of month situations where you're putting all this pressure. If you do it this way, I promise you, you will execute on your timeline. You will create urgency at the customer's timeline, and you will actually avoid the pressure of needing to get a deal done at the last, 23rd hour of the quarter and causing a lot of heartache and stress for your customers. So tackle it far in advance and qualify in advance, and you should be in a good position. I'm Koniak. If you do want more training on how to be an elite seller, check out the video above. It's how to make 500K to $1 million selling software. If you want to sell large deals, if you want to understand how executives buy, if you want to understand the mindset of sales champions, this is the video for you. It's an hour and a half long. It's amazing training. So it's completely free. Watch it up here. And I'll see you guys next week for next week's training. Take care.